When I say failure is not an option, I'm saying, yes, you might fail, but you need to pivot and take a different direction. I can look at my last company being a failure, but now I can say, well, look at what I've created now in the last 6 to 9 months that's so much better or greater in helping more people, where, yeah, that might have been a failure, but I looked at it from all of the positive things that came from it. The personal connection is the biggest piece to figuring out how to disconnect and walk away from a client. And they're so worried about, well, what if I lose the client on these services and these services that they don't do this plan? And I'm saying you have to be okay to walk away.
What up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery podcast, and I'm super pumped about today's episode. You're going to recognize our guest today because she did the intro for us on Gary V's episode last week, and she was a guest, I don't know, probably about 6 or 8 months ago. Her name is Michelle, and she is the pitch queen, and she's all about sales and helping you become a better salesperson and taking the sleaze out of sales. And she masters the art of saying no. And that's what we talk about today. It's all about getting beyond failure, how to get beyond that no. You ever heard that old saying, it's not a failure until you've given up? There's a lot of people that may question that because at some point you do have to say, you know what? It just doesn't make sense anymore. And she's going to share a story with us of how she, with her business, she built a big business, and at some point, you know, it just wasn't working anymore, but she hung on and hung on and hung on. I don't know if you guys can relate to this. I'm sure a lot of us do this with that client or that sale or that listing where we probably should let it go, but we hang on and we just don't get a good outcome. And it ends up becoming what we call an energy suck. So anyway, she's awesome. She shares a great story with us, and there's a lot of lessons in this episode this week when it comes to the ability to sometimes just say no. Don't take things personal, and how do we deal with rejection? And ultimately, the way to deal with it is not taking things personal. Another thing about Michelle, real quick, is she actually pitched on the Shark Tank. All right, anyway, that said, super pumped up for this episode. If you go to the end, by the way, at the end of the show notes, if you haven't listened to Gary V's episode, Gary Vaynerchuk's episode last week, at the bottom of the show notes, after you listen to Michelle, go back and listen to Gary because it's absolutely awesome. And one more thing, your feedback, my friends, is my oxygen. So if you would please give us some feedback, subscribe to the show. It really helps. It helps me also get better guests. The other thing it does is it helps me to know if I'm focusing on the right things and I'm bringing you what you want. All right, that said, anyway, I want to get into this show for you, and I'm super pumped for Michelle, the pitch queen. What up, Masters? Welcome to another episode of Path to Mastery, and today we have a special treat. We are bringing back Michelle Weinstein. And Michelle, I appreciate you spending time with us again. You were on the show, I think about 6 months ago. We had a really cool conversation just about success and failure, which is what your podcast is all about. And it's called Success Unfiltered.
It is. And we talk a lot about the no's and rejections as it relates specifically to sales.
Yes.
So, you know, a lot of times as business owners, entrepreneurs, or real estate and other people, you have to sell. And it's gotten to be a really not so good word anymore in society. And I'm here to make it where you can love selling and how to not do it with being sleazy and being pushy and all that other stuff. So
yeah,
it's how to love selling without feeling pushy, sleazy, and salesy.
Cool. Well, I'm sure none of my listeners have ever heard the word no. So you may be talking to the wrong people here. No, I'm kidding. Listen, we're all salespeople listening to this. And honestly, I like to tell people to embrace the no. In my mind, and you tell me about this, and we'll get into this in a minute, but I'm along the Tony Robbins school of you need to get a certain amount of no's before you can even expect to get a yes.
I'm the same exact way, but for so many people, the no's stop you. The no's put the damper on everything. It's a blow to the confidence. It's a blow to the ego. I've heard all sorts of stories about no's and about being rejected. And once you can see it from a different place and a different point of view, and you don't get like Debbie Downer on it, then everything transforms. And when you can separate your relationship to the no and not take it personal and keep it just, it's a business decision. Okay. When you can just separate that, everything changes for you.
Yeah, you're not kidding. You're not kidding. I don't know that. Did you just read my book or something? Is that where you got that from? Listen, so before we get into this awesome conversation that I'm super excited about, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? How did you get started? What do you do?
What do I do? Okay, well, I'll recap it for you and keep it short and sweet, but I think you're awesome. I love being here with you on your show. I am the pitch queen, and I came up with that about a year and a half ago as my plan B. And I always have a plan B. I have a plan C. And I think it's really important to have plan Bs and Cs because I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today if it wasn't for my plan B. And my last company that I had for about 8 years, I actually had to close in March of 2017. And it was probably one of the hardest things that I've ever had to do. But I literally went to Maui for 2 weeks to figure out what the heck am I going to do. And I said, you know what? I had this plan B that I've been brainstorming for quite a while because a lot of things in my last company weren't in my control. I had a board, I had investors, it was in the prepared food business space, lots of costs involved with that. And sometimes you just don't have control over everything. And I tried everything and anything to keep the company going, raise the funds needed to get it to a certain level of profitability where investors could obviously see their return on investment. And in March, we had to make a tough choice. So we closed. And I said, how can I take everything that I've learned in the last 20 years that I've been in a sales leadership role to teach other people, entrepreneurs, how to get to the place where I got to, which is I had to close the company. And that was probably my biggest no I ever got told. But I didn't let it affect me for very long. I said, actually, how can I look at this experience and see things from the positive to help others, A, learn a lot quicker than I did, B, learn from my mistakes. You don't have to make the same. That might cost you, I always say, upwards of almost $2 million in mistakes. And really help people because I had to figure it all out on my own. And you know this, David. There's no books at Barnes and Nobles that tell you how to run companies, how to do this. And, there's books on sales and other things. But really, from everything that I had to experience, it was not the norm. And my plan B was, how can I take this and help other entrepreneurs as it relates to your sales specifically, overcome those no's, overcome the objections and the rejections to ultimately help more people? Because when you can help more people, A, that means you're making a bigger difference, you're making a contribution to others, and you're going to grow your top line sales. So that's what I did. I spent about 2 weeks figuring it out in more detail since I had really nothing to worry about. I went from going 190,000 miles per hour to about 1 mile per hour. And when you do the same thing for so long and then all of a sudden it comes to a screeching halt, it's very weird. It's bizarre feeling. And, in the last 6 to 9 months, I've helped 2 companies increase revenues upwards of 500,000. One was over $1 million in about a 6-month period, all relating to sales. And then I started my podcast that I've always wanted to do, but it just takes a lot of time. And from all the interviews and all of the back end work, I have a podcast, Success Unfiltered, where on Wednesdays, the episodes are interview based, where I talk about the no's and the rejections with really awesome people, be it sales trainers, salespeople, 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs, online, brick and mortar, product based. And how did they get to their level of success? What did they do to overcome those no's? What did they do to get over the rejection? So you guys can learn all of these different tools from real people. And everyone has something unique. I've done about 50 or 60 of these interviews, and I haven't heard the same answer yet. So it's really cool. It's almost like no therapy. My podcast is your no and your rejection therapy as it relates to sales and how you can conquer these roadblocks that we stumble upon. that you can just keep growing and keep working with the people you really want and stop taking business from anybody and everybody. And then on Saturdays, starting in January 2018, I'm starting a series called Coffee is for Closers. So grab your morning cup of joe and coffee or tea and join me every Saturday. And it's all around the conversation of sales, different things like how guesting can help you, your follow-up systems, finding your ideal client, how to niche down, how do you say no to other people, like the art of saying no, how do you get over the no, handling objections. So that's all going to be on Saturdays starting in January. So
Awesome.
That's a little bit about what I do and how I started.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you. I think you filled us in on a lot of good stuff. You said so many good things here. I had all these notes. I honestly want to start with your podcast. It's Success Unfiltered. I've had the opportunity to be interviewed by you as well. That was really, really cool. Looking forward to that interview coming out. You interview people and you have them talk about their most challenging rejection, failure, you could call it. But you mentioned just when you were telling us who you are, that 50 to 60 interviews, but no one has given you the same answer yet. So what do you see? Because these are all successful people, right? They've all been rejected. 60 people have said different things. So what's the commonality?
I would say that the commonality between everybody on wherever they got stuck to where they got to today and what I call their version of success is longevity, keeping trying, whatever that personal motivation was for them. A lot of times that was a big one. Gosh, this one guy, he became like a billionaire in his 20s and then lost everything, filed bankruptcy, became a billionaire again. And it's just shocking to see, but it's the drive and the motivation that's behind each person. And it's unique in its own situation and way. My drive and motivation now that's been struggling with my last company was I could only help people in the U.S. pretty much regionally. Our mission was, how can I help people change their lives one meal at a time? Where now what keeps me going every day and all the work and the podcast and everything that we do, it's to help people at a greater level because I feel like I have this gift with the sales and how can I have other people become similar to me? And then what could they create for all of their clients and not struggle with not having enough money or being broke and getting whatever they want that fulfills them. And now I can do it on a global level, which for me, that's like the most exciting part. And I get to meet amazing people like you and other people that I've interviewed. So that's a passion of mine. So not only do I get to help other people, I'm also passionate. I love it. So each person, I believe that's the common factor is that their motivation and their drive is specific to them.
It's the motivation. It's the drive. I'm imagining they have a vision, right? So they know where they're going. And these, if you want to call them failures, you can call them whatever you want, but they're just like speed bumps, right? Along the way. And they know that, you know what? Okay, I'm going to try a different direction, right?
Right.
I was thinking about this as I was listening to your podcast episode today, driving home from the office. Failure is not an option. When I hear that, I question it, and I'll tell you why. Because I know personally, I've failed at a ton of things.
Yeah.
So if I said failure is not an option, then I couldn't fail, right? But the reality is I failed at so many things. I just say, okay, that didn't work. So what did I learn from that? And now I'm going to try a different direction. Explain to us what you mean by saying failure is not an option.
When I say failure is not an option, I'm saying, yes, you might fail, but you need to pivot and take a different direction, right? I can look at my last company being a failure, but now I can say, well, look at what I've created now in the last 6 to 9 months that's so much better or greater in helping more people where, that might have been a failure, but I looked at it from all of the positive things that came from it and all of the people that we did help. There's certain things that we don't have control over. So one of the investors made a comment to me. I'll give you an example. He said, oh, well, great job after your last failure. Looks like you're off to a great start. That was his comment to me. And he's one of the pissed off investors. But if you invest in a company, most accredited real investors, they invest in 10 companies hoping one will work. That means what? Is there really 9 failures behind it? No, I gave it my all. That's why it wasn't a failure.
And I'm not struggling with this. I'm just thinking as I'm listening to you. Your company, it wasn't working for you. Whatever the case was, you shut it down. So when some people hear failure is not an option, they would not shut that down. They would just keep grinding and grinding and grinding and maybe doing something.
And I kept grinding and grinding and grinding. And I did the same thing where probably I should have shut it down 2 to 3 years ago. But I was like, failure's not an option. And for me, the definition of failure's not an option is did I try everything in my power to do what was best for the company and the investors? And the answer to that is yes. And did I try every possible revenue stream, angle, investor I could find to pitch to get the next 8 million that we pretty much needed? Yes. Did I bootstrap the whole thing and make as many side deals and barter deals as I could to get to where we got to? Yes. Did I pitch on Shark Tank and pitch at some of the biggest places for investment and it just wasn't the right time or right fit? Yes. So for me, I tried everything that when we'd made the decision to close, it wasn't a failure anymore in my mind. I gave it my all and I tried everything possible with the means for, how much funding I had. There was no one else willing to pay the payroll anymore. There was no one else willing to pay the rent checks. That's the time that it had to end.
I guess that's a really difficult question, I think, for anybody to answer. I don't know that anybody has the answer, except it's more of an internal thing, right? I think we have to know when enough's enough. But I think there's some things you can put in place, like you talked about. Have you done everything in your power? Have you pitched it? Have you explored this? Have you exhausted this? You know what I mean? I guess you just have to know, right? Because I see too many people that are just keep struggling and struggling and struggling to keep something afloat that probably they'd be happier and so much better off if they maybe just switch directions. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was me. That was me. I was that person. Yes, but in my mind, I said failure's not an option, and there were more options that I needed to test. And I think for every person, there's a pattern in my life, personally and professionally. I stick around with things for a little too long because I keep pivoting and trying and seeing what can I make work. Because when you invest so much time, energy, you'd have blood, sweat, and tears, like money, everything, you want to try and give it your all, where failure isn't an option. But at times, it's like, when do you pull the plug? Right? And for me, I had to try everything. And for other people, I'm sure they're on the same path. Now, it would be very interesting to see how you can get through that process a little quicker. But I think everyone's on their own journey, right? Just like starting the company. I had no idea what I was doing. I was never in food manufacturing. I knew I could sell, and that was my specialty, but I didn't know how to run a team of 20, 25 people. I had to learn that along the road. I could probably run a whole HR company at this point because I'm so good at all the HR stuff from having a company, so you get really good at all these skills that you never had to figure out in the past.
What up, masters? I'm going to get you right back to the show. I want to share a couple opportunities with you. First off, my new training program I'm super pumped about. People have been asking me for years, guys. It's School for Realtors. It's an expired training. I'm giving you everything, my friends, every single thing that you're going to need to convert expired sellers in this competitive time. All right, I have every single script you're going to need. From the initial conversation, how to keep people from hanging up on you, to the closing script, right? We're giving you a copy of our pre-listing packet. I'm giving you emails that you can literally copy and paste templates. I'm giving you a 65-day email campaign, guys, that you literally copy and paste. Expired flyers, okay, 2 different marketing pieces. And we're giving you actual ads that you can use on Facebook. Guys, these are targeted ads that I've been using on Facebook where I'm generating people calling me and saying, hey, I see you guys everywhere. Yeah, why don't you come over and take a look at my house? So I'm giving you everything. This is called Expired School for Realtors. Simply go to schoolforrealtors.com. Costs you $149. I wanted to make this such a no-brainer because it's going to be the best investment you will ever make in your real estate business for $149. And here's a better thing. there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. So at the end, if you said, you know what, Dave, I just didn't get value in your expired training, then I'm going to give you your $149 back, and you still have all my materials. So how's that work, right? You can't go wrong. Listen, everything is here, everything you need. And here's the last thing. We have a monthly call. You're part of an awesome community where everybody in the community has the same goals, okay? You're sharing things at work with each other. And I am logging in monthly and doing a live training for everybody. You have role play partners. Listen, this is everything you need. It's so simple. You go to schoolforrealtors.com, you get to download, and then you just start downloading. And I even made it step by step by step. All right, that said, awesome opportunity for you. And then finally, and we're going to get you back to the show, I promise, if you love audiobooks or if you love podcasts, you need to check out Audible. Audible.com is Amazon's audiobook site. You can get yourself a copy of Crushing It or any book you want. I would encourage Crushing It for free by going to davidsfreebook.com. Again, davidsfreebook.com. Get yourself a free copy of any audiobook you want on Audible. Yes, they're going to ask you for a credit card, but here's what you're going to do. As long as you cancel within 30 days, your credit card will never be billed. So schedule a reminder in your calendar 25 days out. And if for some reason you don't love the service, then you cancel and your card's never, ever charged. And you get to keep the book. Guys, listen, these are opportunities. How do you go wrong with either of these opportunities? Okay, listen, you rock. I just want to share that with you. So a couple opportunities. Schoolforrealtors.com and davidsfreebook.com. Enjoy the rest of the show. Let's go back to the conversation we started this with. Don't let the no stop you. You talked about being a blow to the ego and also how to separate so it's not personal. I see that as probably one of the biggest challenges or obstacles we face as salespeople is we're taking it personal. How does somebody take the personalness out of it?
I think it comes really with practice, and I'll share a story because I've been working one-on-one. We were testing this high-end service, one-on-one coaching for CPAs to sell high-level tax plans to their clients. And what I found is that the personal connection is the biggest piece to figuring out how to disconnect and walking away from a client. And they're so worried about, well, what if I lose the client on these services and these services that they don't do this plan? And I'm saying you have to be okay to walk away because this is the true colors of the clients coming out. And then really, I think it's about stepping back and asking yourself a few questions like, A, is this client serving you in the way that you want? B, are you enjoying your time working on this client? And when you do the work, do you feel like you're getting paid what you're worth? That's a big one because you know those clients that you work with and you're like, don't want to do it because you're like, I undercharged them. They're only paying me this. I wish I would have charged more. And now you're having all those conversations. So I think it's really figuring out your value and naming your pricing on the front end first and getting paid up front too. I think a lot of times in business, people are chasing money all day long. And you won't keep it as personal if you treat it as a business transaction. But even I've seen people when they're collecting on big deals and contracts, you know, they're taking it personally. Oh, why aren't they calling me back? Blah, blah. Well, you can actually prevent that from happening. You can actually get paid ahead of time. And then a lot of this personal stuff will start to just dissipate and go away.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is, I mean, as we're spending time, like right now I'm spending time on this podcast with you, there's a lot of other things I could be doing right now, right? And I made this choice and I'm glad I did. Right. And it's been awesome. But I think as salespeople, you know, we sometimes will spend a lot of time with the wrong people and not realizing that as we're spending this time with this person, we're missing out on so many other opportunities.
Yes, and you are. And then you get mad at yourself for it. And then you take it personally when really it's your choice, right? So if you actually worked with the clients that served you well and treated you just like you want to be treated, and you actually turned away clients that weren't a good fit instead of taking them all on. You know which ones I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. You ever heard the PIT fee? PIT?
No, tell me.
It's the pain in the ass fee. It's like, it's PIT, right? It's the extra, like in my business.
It should be the PITA.
Yeah, exactly.
The PITA fee.
The PITA fee, exactly. The PITA fee. That's right. So, hey, if you're going to take on a certain client, maybe ahead of time, this person's going to be really difficult. They're going to require more attention than normal. Okay, hey, I'll be happy to work with you. However, you're not going to tell them personally, but the rate for them happens to be 25% higher than everybody else, right?
Yeah, it's true.
All right. So that said, all right, listen, so great conversation again, for our listeners, talking about rejection, talking about the inability. Well, actually, something else you mentioned too, I want to jump back to. You said the art of saying no. I do want to touch on that though.
Okay.
You said the art of saying no. I mean, that's so important.
I think once you can master that, woo.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss just came out with his new book, and it's A Tribe of Mentors. And I don't know, have you read his book yet?
I haven't.
All right. Well, one of his questions that he asks everybody, essentially, I don't know, do you listen to his podcast by chance?
I do sometimes. Okay.
So one of the questions he asks, in the last 5 years, what have you become better at saying no to? Distractions, invitations, and what realizations or approaches have helped? And any other tips? And I absolutely love that question because I think that's an area I really struggle too. So that said, I mean, in the last 5 years, what have you become better at saying no to, or how have you become better at it?
I think it's a work in progress. I would say the biggest thing that I said no to was closing the company, right? Instead of saying yes and keeping it going, I said, no, let's close it. I mean, that's just a big one that if you actually look at it, I should have said no sooner, right? I should have said no 2 years ago, maybe, or whatever time it was. But I would say maybe in the last 6 to 9 months, a lot of people reach out to me to work one-on-one. And unfortunately, I just don't have that kind of time, right? So I have said no to a lot of people. In addition to that, I focus with clients that sell high ticket offers. People that sell between $3,000 to $10,000 is the sweet spot. Some are upwards of $70,000 sales. And that's really my sweet spot. So if you don't fit into that sweet spot, I sometimes say no a lot of times. Not sometimes. I say no a lot of times. But then I'm like, well, how do you let these people go and prospects go, right? Without ruffling anyone's feathers. I'll send it to you too, but I actually wrote a little guide on this to help people figure out, I thought about how am I able to do this in a polite way and help other people say no. So it's the art of saying no, when and how to decline your clients politely.
So I don't know if I'm the most polite at it. I mean, I just say no, right? I mean, I don't know if it's...
I have a little bit better way of doing it.
Sure. Well, I say, hey, right now, unfortunately, I don't have time for that, or that just doesn't work. Maybe a lot of people are hating me after it. So give us 2 of your tips that maybe soften that up a bit.
Okay. Listen up, everybody, because this is really crucial. A lot of people I say no to are future referrals to someone who's actually a better fit. Okay. So when you can do this in a really good way, and here's an example on how to do it. This is a person I asked, and he said he was in a sales job. I said, you know what? Unfortunately, that is not the area that I'm focusing on right now. And I would love to help you out. And so I'm doing some live coaching opportunities on Facebook. So if you'd like to participate in that, it's completely complimentary if you're willing to do it live. And, if you know anybody that is selling something between about 3 and 10,000 that might be a better fit, I would love to help them too. So I'd love any referrals, but I will be helping you if you're open to it, doing it live coaching. So as an opportunity to still help them, tell them no, that I can't work one-on-one. And number 3, I asked for a referral. And that person is extremely happy because I'm able to still kind of do what they wanted, even though it's not somebody I'd be able to really help at a deep level at the place that I want to do for the people that I am doing some consulting work for.
Interesting.
So that's one way. Another way too, depending on what you're selling, right? And for most of you, it's all real estate. So let's give a real estate example, just so it's working in the specific niche for you guys. If you're working with a prospect and they are, going to take up a lot of your time. And you don't think that you're really able to jive with them, and you're not going to enjoy your time showing them a bunch of houses. Let's just say they're buying a house, right? It's really okay to say no. Unfortunately, I just don't think we're going to be a good fit. But you know what? I've got my buddy Joe, and he specializes in townhouses. Let's just say you focus on single family homes. So this is the key, having 1 or 2 or 3 referrals in your pocket that you can pawn people off to, because you want to provide them something of value still. You don't want to just say, no, I'm sorry, I'm too busy, bye. But how can you still be of service to that person? Because sales is still being of service, right? So we need to be of service to them. So maybe Joe can help you. He specializes in townhouses or in whatever neighborhood they want to go to and you don't want to have anything to do with. So, talk to Joe first. If he doesn't work out, I've got Susie and Paula. They're amazing too. But unfortunately, this just isn't a fit for me, but I'm going to make sure that you're in good hands. And end it at that. So those are my 2 ways that I would handle that, because that is the art of saying no. You're still being of service and you're still being of value.
I love it. It's brilliant. I'm going to steal that right away. That's good stuff.
Okay, cool.
And it's funny. I actually do some of that in real estate right now. People reach out to me. I get a lot of, and you probably get this too, media companies that pitch people for my podcast. And, a lot of them, I just don't think they're a great fit. You know what I mean? But then I'm always reaching out to people myself to get on their podcast, and I'm getting shut down. and I have all these notes in front of me, and it says, don't take it personal. Don't like, right. And I really have to remind myself of that, because when people say no, it's tough sometimes. I mean, there's one guy, I read his book, I promoted his book, all these dialogues with his assistant. I was sure, and then I got an email a couple of days ago, just, hey, he's not doing any more podcast interviews. Check back 2018. I was like, But then I realized, you know what? Hey, listen, at least I've got the dialogue going with his assistant, right? I mean, we have a good relationship. She's getting back and forth to me. So I'll just check back in with her. I wished her a happy holidays. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm going to actually send her a holiday card.
Good. I was going to say, you've got to send out cards, and you have to call and just call for no reason. And when you start calling them for no reason, then they're going to start to wonder what the heck's going on.
Well, that's the thing, right? You bring value. I mean, so,
right.
I'm promoting the guy on my podcast. I'm promoting his book. I'm talking about him. I'm bringing the value. And when the time's right, the time's right. But if I, in my own mind now, make it this personal thing and this and that, then I'm never going to create that opportunity. I'm going to shut myself off.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. What you're doing is fabulous, but I think when it comes to saying no to people gracefully, those are 2 ways that will change the game.
Maybe I have to learn how to say no better, and then other people will say no better than me. How's that?
Yep.
It's kind of like the universe, right? It's like karma. I've come a long way. All right. Anyway, that said, I appreciate your time. How do our listeners get in touch with you if they want to talk to you about any of this great stuff that we talked about today?
The best way is thepitchqueen.com, ThePitchQueen.com. I'll send you a link if you want the guide that I made to the art of saying no. There's some things that will totally help you guys out with that.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then also, if you're on Instagram or Facebook, it's The Pitch Queen. So
okay, great.
Come over and join the others in the royal family.
I appreciate it. And if you send me that link, I will definitely add that link to our blog show notes. So you guys can get that at David I. Hill. Or actually, just go to pathtomastery.net and you'll get all of our show notes. All right, Michelle, your podcast is called
Success Unfiltered.
Success Unfiltered. Awesome. So check out your podcast. It's really, really cool. And beyond being cool, you have like the coolest intro music, by the way. Like, I'm not kidding. Oh my God.
I had a DJ make it for me.
It's like I have an old Jim Rohn. You know who Jim Rohn is, obviously.
Yes, I do.
It's funny how the world. Jarek Robbins is Tony's youngest son. I know Jarek. And Jarek, a while back, he did an event with me and he gave me the CD. And the CD was actually a friend of his took Jim Rohn and he created a mixtape out of all Jim Rohn. And it's so awesome. But those beats, it's like got the exact same beats as your intro.
So cool.
As a matter of fact, remind me, I'll share that with you. I'll share it with you through Dropbox. You got it. All right. So final question is on our listeners' path to sales mastery. Michelle, what is the one thing you want them to take from this interview today?
I'm all about action. Just take one thing and put it into action. If it's starting to gracefully tell a prospect no once a week, then start doing that. Or maybe you've got a headache client on your hands. Maybe it's time to fire somebody. Just start saying no, because that will create more opportunities for the people that really you want to work with to come in, and it will create the space for that.
Love it. Awesome. And the question I forgot to ask is, what book are you reading right now? Either that, or what book would you recommend to our listeners?
I've got like 5 books looking at me, but I am so busy with everything going on. So let's discuss the books that I will be reading in a few weeks. I will be reading, this is probably not for like the real estate crowd, but if you are starting your own business, like .com Secret.
Oh, yeah. Russell Brunson.
Yeah, one of Russell's books. That's next on the list.
Awesome. So we'll give him Russell Brunson. So as a matter of fact, Russell has 2. He has .com Secrets.
Yes.
And he has Expert Secrets, which is also a fantastic book.
Yes.
So either of those. So listen,
yes.
You guys could actually go, if you love podcasts, you're going to love Audible. Go right now to davidsfreebook.com. Get yourself a free download on Audible. Free, absolutely free. davidsfreebook.com. Check out those books. Again, Michelle, hey man, it's been an absolute pleasure. I just really appreciate you spending some time with us today.
It was an honor to be here. Thank you so much. And hopefully this is really valuable for all you guys. So go make it happen.
Masters, if you know me, you know health and nutrition is number 1. And that's why I'm an advisor for Advocare products. Listen, in my opinion, these are the best products on the planet, guys. You get what you're supposed to get, right? I use the products for health. I use the products for energy. I use the products for wellness. So we have all the different lines from Spark, starting your day with a great energy shot, all the way to pre-workout. It's whatever your goals are, right? It's whatever your goals are. You can check out the products at www.livelongersmarter.com. That's my website. Or reach out to me, and I'd love to have a 30-minute or, anywhere from 15 to 30-minute conversation with you, just talking about your health and nutrition goals and what I can do to help you achieve those goals. So again, products, energy line, or wellness line, whether it's joints, you're getting up there in the age, you just want to take care of yourself. I'll tell you, one of the greatest compliments I get is people, you say, wow, you look amazing. I cannot believe you are the age you are. Weight loss. I've helped lots of people, guys, lose weight, not just lose it, but keep it off with the products. And the cool thing is, I'd say 75% of the people who start with our products, they continue using our products even after they initially tried them, which has been amazing. And strength, if you're into bodybuilding, then hey, Rich Fronin, okay? I don't know if you know who Rich Fronin is. He's an advocate for Advocare as well. So amazing products. You can see us. We're featured on NASCAR, professional soccer, college basketball, college football, Men's Health magazine last month. These are the real deal, guys. LiveLongerSmarter.com is the website, or reach out to me if you, like I said, if you want to have a personal conversation with me, just send me an email. In the subject line, just put Advocare products, and I'd love, like I said, schedule a 15 to 30-minute call with you to talk about your health and nutrition goals. Guys, you rock. Live longer, smarter. And as Gary Keller eloquently said, if you don't take care of your body, where are you gonna live? You rock.
You are listening to One More Sale with your host, David I. Hill, author of the Sales Playbook. Get your copy at www.thesalesplaybook.net.